Welcome back, you hear Goldberg. Today we'll be talking about what do you do if it all falls through? The big whoopee. I don't know why, but many folks are fascinated with this subject, and we'll delve in. There's two possible outcomes. The former is almost certainly what's going to happen, at least for the duration of our lifetimes, as far as I'm concerned. But I have to note, be cautious with these libertarian and conservative talking heads, whether in the general political sphere or manosphere. Many of these guys are so emotionally and morally invested in this idea of a collapse that it's not, oh yeah, I'm just saying it could happen. They want it to happen. Their stake, it's like, I'm going to be validated. People are going to say I'm high IQ, I'm correct. And that's blinded them to reality. This is particularly true of libertarians for whatever reason. Ideology always comes first. Not what they can see, but what they want to believe. And so this is where it just takes a little bit of, all right, let's look at what's going on and some historical examples. So, of course, the very loud siren call is,
get out of the stock market, sell your 401k, don't do anything, it's all going to come crashing down.
And you say, all right, I'm not doing that, so I'm just talking about my own approach. My 401k at work is pretty crappy anyway, so it's like 65% Vanguard institutional, 20% small cap, 15% mid cap. There's no reason to buy international funds through that particular offering because the fees are too high, the real estate fund fees are too high, the bond fund fees are ridiculously high. And the way I see it, if the currency collapses, bonds are going to be completely worthless. So you might as well just go all in on stocks. At least that's what I'm doing. If I had different options, I might diversify. But that's just the work 401k. I have other investment accounts where I'm doing, international and real estate and, other angles. Now these folks will go, just buy a bunch of silver or gold. Okay, you probably want the physical stuff. I have some silver. But the problem with dumping all this money in physical gold or physical metals in general is that you have to have a way to store it. So if you don't have remote property where you can bury a safe and, Cuck marks the spot, what's going to happen there? You're going to have it in your house. Someone can break in and steal it. You're going to have it in your person. You can be attacked, or in your car. It can be broken into. So if you try to leave the country, you're not going to get out with a bunch of precious metal, in the physical form. So I'm not sure exactly what you want to do. Maybe build a big house on the hill, cocktails, woo, like Uncle Scrooge diving into it. Maybe that's the option. The other thing is crypto, which I have some. I've been adding. I treat crypto like an investment. I don't consider it a store of value. And as we've seen with crypto, it's very easy to manipulate the markets with even just, the whisper of possible regulation. They crash. So I'm not exactly 100%. Maybe those privacy coins might be something to look into. The idea of these crypto, it's going to replace all the currencies. There probably is a video necessary for that, but there are a lot of reasons. I did a blog post on it. There's a lot of reasons to be a little skeptical of that. It's going to replace. Blockchain technology, absolutely. The idea that everyone's going to be using Bitcoin in the future, every single person, it's going to replace every currency. I'm not sure about that claim. So more has to be looked into. But now we should take a look at a couple of examples. You had Argentina, of course, defaulted on debt. Argentina did not devolve into a wasteland of people just killing each other and living out in the hills, right? It's still a semi-functional nation state, even if it is politically unstable. So right there, I would put a little bit of hesitation because that's Argentina, and then we're comparing it to the United States, which is a totally different ballgame. But even Weimar Republic, it's going to be like the Weimar Republic. We'll have wheelbarrows full of these neat bucks. Well, you have to remember the Weimar Republic was the result of the collapse of an empire, losing its colonies, which, it got some revenue from, losing major industries like the coal fields and other things, losing all this territory, but also losing a lot of its military, and then having a massive obligation to pay, which I think was in gold. It was something ridiculous. It was basically designed to where Germany was going to be a vassal state and never again capable of challenging any other European power. So when you consider that, right, The United States is not exactly comparable. We still have a relatively strong military. There is this social engineering going on, but we are around the world. We can show up and mess things up, as oftentimes we do, like in Afghanistan. But the fact you can do that is already a defense against your currency being totally unstable. That's just the way it is. Now, if you start seeing major cuts or drawdowns, reductions in the military, or they start, oh, you can't even train people to fight, that might be a little bit different. You have to always look at it that way. We have not lost every single major company and like there's no economy in the United States. It is becoming more automated. Obviously, these are multinationals, but it's a little early to say the United States economy is completely over with. Yes, there's a lot of Fed money going in. Yes, it is propped up, but it's not, oh yeah, there's nothing there. It's also worth noting, going back to the 401k stocks thing, the Weimar Republic, stocks really didn't do that badly because people had this worthless money and they were trying to avoid taxes, so they just started speculating on stocks and drove up the values. That hurt people who were like dividend growth investors, but in the grand scheme of things, it was better to put your money in the stock market. And we've seen that recently, people bidding up meme stocks, crypto coins, whatever. So I'm not sure, unless the currency completely bottoms out, I'm not sure you're going to see the stock market destroyed. I think that's a little bit premature and misunderstanding of terms as far as these people are operating. I did see some Twitter feed thread where he's going, oh yeah, when the unemployment ends, there's not going to be jobs, and then the stock market's going to collapse and the dollar's going to collapse. I'm like, we've heard this for a long time, and yet it still has yet to occur. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm a little bit hesitant when it comes to these, oh yeah, it's the end of the world speculations, because we've got a lot more things going for us in the United States than most other countries that have just evolved into anarchy and inflation. And I brought this up in the Immortal Investor book about the relative strength of the U.S. military. So there's a whole discussion of inflation there. You always have to, whenever someone says, look at this historical example, we're going to be Zimbabwe. Well, remember what Zimbabwe was, right? Zimbabwe was, let's go in, let's take out all the people who know how to run the industries, let's destroy the economy, turn it entirely into a state-run model for the most part, and then just, let it be. Although there were some people who profited off of the Zimbabwean stock market, believe it or not. I remember I was reading or listening to this book on investors, and they were talking about that. So make sure that you're pursuing a valid comparison, because a massive superpower versus a small country, there's a lot of different things going on there. It's not, matches up in exact alignment. This brings us to questions of what do you do? I would say even if you are on the neat buck side of things, you can't necessarily afford to buy land, start stocking up. I've been gradually doing so ever since last year. Canned food, I know it's not the most healthy, but here's a red pill for you. Is it better to be temporarily unhealthy or be dead? Yeah, canned food. Someone gave me a while ago some MREs, so I still have those. Water, I have been getting those big things like for the water dispensers, spring water, but I'll still probably filter it at some level. And the main thing is that, do you have the ability to eat? A lot of these guys talk about, oh, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that. Can you eat? Are you capable of, not just having food, but also producing food? And this is crucial because if right now you buy a can of food and it's like 80 cents, $1, if inflation really picks up, it would be maybe $5 if it gets that bad. So don't wait until you're going to have your very small wages inflated. You're trying to buy food that's going to be inflated. Try to get it now. You can do that even if you're on unemployment, even if you're only making a little bit of money. You can put a few dollars a week towards building a stash so you're not caught unawares. Other stuff like toilet paper is a good argument. Now, could the inflation be controlled? If Biden was smart with this whole, 600 billion plus 3.5 trillion, he would actually jack up taxes, because if taxes, the idea is, takes money out of circulation, which should reduce inflation. But at the same time, you'd have to make some cuts, because if you take money out of circulation, you just keep spending. You're not changing anything fundamentally. And you've seen, maybe this is a reflection of inflation itself. Back in the 90s, Billy Boy Clinton wanted the threshold for higher taxes to be 200,000. Then Barack the Booty Obama said 250. Now Bidet, he's saying 400. So I don't know if that's because, 200 is now 400, or they're just cowards and they don't want to actually make a politically toxic decision. But yeah, that raising interest rates probably not going to occur. Those would be ways to fight inflation. Whether they'll do it or not is up for debate. And so I'm in a position where I live. I have a couple of cisterns, so you could use that. Maybe not to drink water, but perhaps in the garden. I have a tree that gives walnuts. Already saved some last year. I'll be doing more this year, but I got to time it because they'll get those little pasty worms that rot them out. I had a mulberry tree, made a mulberry pie a couple months ago that was really delicious. Honeysuckle bush, which you can't live on, but it's something. I have a couple of tomato plants. Some melons appear to be coming in. I'm not sure if they will. I had was a cabbage or lettuce that probably got about 5 salads for various meals during the summer. And I've got a lot more space that I could cultivate, like perfect sunlight, whatnot. So I could do this. I haven't read this book yet, but I've heard it's good. I could do something like that, probably a third or even a half of an acre to entirely produce food. You just have to be able to protect it and manage it, which is kind of difficult. I'm also going to try to get into salting things, like doing the kosher dills. I've actually never tried sauerkraut, but I might have to. And then I'm probably going to invest in one of those area gardens so that I can grow stuff off season. And if you have the means, I would look into this stuff. Even if you have a little apartment on the balcony, you can grow something, or get an area garden. Do hydroponics. I built my own hydroponic system. And what happened was, I think I planted cilantro maybe? Well, it was designed in such a manner that he said you have to spray paint the sides. For whatever reason, the paint got into the reservoir and started pumping paint, polluted water into the plants, so they died. Unfortunately, these things do occur. So, might just get the area garden. The main thing to focus on with this whole scenario is, can you produce food? Not, oh yeah, I'm going to be a mercenary, I'm going to be Mad Max. Are you able to make food? Are you going to be able to eat? Because that's going to matter a lot more. Now, a number of people in comments have been mentioning this idea of running away. Masculine men should retreat to Alaska. And I thought it was a joke, but apparently they're serious, which is, another example of how in the manosphere, conservative spheres, people will just say stuff without actually considering specifics. So Alaska is one of the worst places you could think of going if, in fact, the second scenario I'm sorry, I didn't perfectly segue, but, the more extreme, dollar doesn't work anymore, total anarchy, whatnot. Alaska is a really bad idea. Here's the reason why. It is one of the most dependent on the government of any U.S. state, understandably. It is remote. It is cold. It is not exactly the best place to develop stuff. They do have oil, so that gives them some leverage, but realistically, if the DC were to disappear overnight, I'm pretty sure that Russia would just march in, and I don't think those patriot Alaskans are going to fight the Russians. Well, at least they're conservative, socially. You also have to consider Alaska does not get much sunlight, so you can't do solar. Alaska is a heavy importer of food because you can't grow much there. Now, recently, because of changing global temperatures, that shifted a bit, just like people have talked about Siberia potentially becoming the breadbasket of the world. But it's going to take some time. I would not rely on you being able to grow a lot of stuff in Alaska unless it's maybe an indoor like area garden. So what else are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go hunt some caribou and moose. Well, good luck to you. I hope that you don't make the moose angry because those things don't mess around, believe me. Yeah, I would say Idaho, even though it can get cold, you can grow stuff there. Iowa, even some parts of the South where it's a little bit more climate friendly. You want to have access to water, but also enough sunshine that, yeah, you can grow food, but you can also, assume you want to use solar if you're off grid. You can't rely on the public system. So there's a lot of things to consider there, but, be careful about these, oh yeah, just do this. there's consequences to just making abrupt decisions. And we come down to the sort of meme aspect to this. Now, this picture is a little inaccurate because the white dude should be probably 300 pounds and wearing a Gadsden flag t-shirt. Um, the reality is, stop fixating.
I'm stacking my 6,000 rounds. I'm gonna be like Mad Max.
Like, dude, no, you're not going to go to war. These are the idiots that join some, like, militia where they don't realize that 90% of the militia are people watching the militia. Like, just don't even get that out of your head. You want to have, you want to have Second Amendment. You want to have a weapon to defend yourself, defend your house, like a normal person would do. Okay. But get out of your head this whole, I'm going to be part of a group, I'm going to be fighting, because what's the point of having, yeah, you have a weapon, you have ammunition. Unless you're going to use that as currency, what are you going to do? Go around, this is a holdup, you stop the Range Rovers on the highway. And of course, those people are just going to have the worthless fiat money because they haven't prepared for anything more than likely. So I would just say that your focus should be on, can you produce food? And then other people you can kind of coordinate with, because if you really want to run a whole farm, that's difficult to do as one person, right? It's hard enough for a person to work 40 hours a week and maintain basic stuff around their house. Now imagine producing all your own food. So you probably want some cooperation. If you have a girl that's really into outdoor stuff, gardening, fantastic. But even friends, family members, because you are able to develop that support network, so you're not going to be reliant entirely on yourself, where if you don't have something, you're very quickly going to be in a bad situation. You're going to have to be like turning tricks to survive. That's just not a good scene. So that's my point. Would I get everything out of the stock market? I'm not doing that myself. I don't believe that we're going to see the complete collapse of the United States, not necessarily even in my lifetime. But ultimately, it's up to you. The main thing, regardless of to what degree this plays out, having food and being able to produce food, that's the most important part. Food and water, not, oh, I've got a big gun collection, I'm a badass, I've got all this tactical equipment. That stuff, frankly, is what the clowns do, the ones that are not going to be ready to actually take care of themselves if and when that event occurs.